guys, thanks for joining me today. I'm going to speak about an imbalanced brow center. The brow center is the third eye chakra up here. It's the seat of intuition. The demon for this chakra is illusion. So a person who has an imbalanced brow center, this is a person who will distort certain concepts of reality. They'll be quite distorted about their own personal reality, so that can mean that they can have some very negative thinking going on, some very negative belief systems they may be holding on to. They're just not getting a clear picture of reality. Yeah, this person can be sometimes someone who is living in a fantasy world a lot. They fantasize a lot. Yeah. And so they're very disconnected from reality, and they may not actually be able to discern between what is true and what is real. So let's dive into that a bit more. So a person who is struggling with an imbalanced flow of energy in their brow center, this person may find it difficult to actually accept new perspectives. Okay, so this person may be somebody who has already decided, about something. They're already very over identified with their own beliefs, that if new information presents itself to them, they will find it difficult to accept that. And that's because that imbalanced brow has led to them developing a kind of a narrow mindedness or a closed mindedness, that they can't now take in any new information, because new information can feel quite threatening to this person. And sometimes, I've found that it's because the reason a person can do this is because they're quite comfortable now with what they believe in, and perhaps, their perspective is something that offers them, some kind of self-validation. Sometimes this person has grown up in an environment as a child, felt like they were not accepted or not validated by their parents or their caregivers. I mean, a lot of us have been subject to that, right? We've been raised in such a way where our thoughts and our feelings have not been validated, and then as adults we go out into the world, we find a certain role to play or a certain place where we feel like in our lives we're now getting that validation. And that validation could be something that we get because of the way we see things, right? And it resonates with other people, and other people kind of validate us for it, and then we want to stay in that comfortable place, because what we've done is we've attached a lot of our self-worth to that now. Okay, some of the physical symptoms that a person could get if they have an imbalanced brow center is things like headaches, migraines, problems with their vision, or dizziness of some kind, and this is because that person has perhaps drawn up a lot of the energy out of the lower chakras, and it's all spinning around now in their higher centers, where they are spending a lot of time up here in their mental centers. Now the thing is, if we do this, if we have all of our energy up here, then our higher centers become very, very excessive. And one of the things that this can lead to is delusion. Now in the spiritual community, I've noticed, I don't know if you've noticed this, but there is this tendency sometimes for people, when they're struggling with something in their lives, like they are suffering with insomnia or low moods or low energy, they have this tendency to kind of blame it on something that's happening out there. Like the moon is going through a certain phase right now, and it's it's like sucking me dry of all my energy, or this planet over here is in retrograde, and so it's making me feel all ill, and this planet over here is doing this. And the thing is, I'm not saying that planets don't affect us. Planetary positions, that are in our astrological chart, for example, which is kind of like a karmic imprint of our lives. Certainly, yes, these things do affect us. What the planets are doing up there does affect us. But if we are somebody who has become quite depleted in our lower centers, okay, we've become quite ungrounded because we've brought all of this energy up here and we're functioning primarily from up here. Okay, we're not actually getting a clear picture of what's going on, and we've become quite disconnected from our physical body, because that's what ungroundedness does. Running too much energy through your higher centers and being too ungrounded, that will make you disconnect from your physical body, and so you're not so much in tune with your physical body, so you may not be actually realizing that sometimes the cause of your symptoms is just something very simple, and it's just a simple thing like, you know, you need to drink more water because you're dehydrated, or perhaps you're lacking some kind of nutrient, and so you need to look at the nourishment that your food is giving you, you know, the lack of nourishment there. Perhaps it's, you know, it's you just need to take more rest, you need to take some time out, you know. It could be something simple like that that just needs to be addressed. So yes, there is stuff going on in the solar system all the time that does affect us, but we need to get a very balanced perspective on these things, which a balanced brow center can help us to do. Okay, and then sometimes it really is just a case of realizing something that's very obvious that could be the answer to your ailment. Okay, staying on the topic of delusion. Okay, the other thing I've noticed is with conspiracy theories. Now, a few years ago, you know, a lot of people started to wake up and realize that there's a lot of darkness and there's a lot of corruption out there in the outside world. Okay, so it led to people questioning things more. You know, people developed a mistrust, you know, for political leaders and for the mass media because they felt they were constantly being lied to. But some people have really got themselves stuck in the idea that, you know, we're being lied to all the time now, and that everything out there is a conspiracy. And that's just not true. Not everything out there is a conspiracy. So if your brow center is not balanced, it will lead you to think that now everything is, you know. And so I think this is really a case of a person has lost the ability to properly discern world events, to really be able to discern between what is true, you know, and what is not true. And so what a good practice for this person might be is to take their attention off the external world and to actually go inwards, okay, and be willing to look at basically your own denial, okay, and the own lack of truth that may be going on inside of you, and develop a good practice of truthfulness so that you actually get to know what truth feels like to you in your own body. And that means that you have to be willing to practice being true to others and being true to yourself. And this isn't always an easy thing to do. Okay, so another thing with an imbalanced brow center is confusion. Okay, confusion, which leads to a real lack of clarity. Okay, you could be confused about which way to go in your life. You know, it can be very difficult for you to make decisions about things. And something that I've noticed actually is that, you know, with spiritual teachers, okay, we have a lot of spiritual teachers nowadays. We have a lot of channelers as well, mediums, psychics, you know, some of them are doing fantastic work out there. But if, let's say, a teacher hasn't actually developed their brow center, it isn't balanced, yeah, then it could be that some of the things that they're teaching are actually distorted, yeah, because let's face it, in the spiritual community, right, there is a lot of focus on the third eye, okay, on balancing your brow center. There's almost like an obsession sometimes I've seen with, you know, you've got to open your third eye, Yeah, and even a lot of spiritual practices get us to focus on our brow center. But I think it's really important to first establish proper grounding, you know, to balance the lower centers, because all the centers really need to be working in harmony with one another, right? So if there is somebody teaching something out there, you know, spiritual concepts and things, they may not be accurate. They can be distorted in some way if they're coming from a teacher who has a very severely imbalanced brow center, you know, and that can sometimes, that lack of clarity and confusion can really come through their work. You know, they could come out with some very long, convoluted explanations of things, which just leads to more confusion and just leads people to become overwhelmed, you know. It doesn't actually provide any real clarity or understanding about spiritual concepts. So that's something to look out for. And, you know, where channelers and medium psychics are concerned, yes, I'm sure there's people out there that are probably doing amazing work, bringing in information, you know, that can really serve humanity right now. But again, if you haven't balanced this chakra, yeah, and you haven't established proper grounding, then you may just be reaching up to spirit, up here into this vast ocean of infinite consciousness, and pulling in information, you know, that doesn't actually make any sense, because there's no structure, because it's lacking a proper structure to it. Because intuition only works well actually within a structure, within parameters, yeah? Now, what about a person who is perhaps head blind? I've had quite a lot of personal experiences with this. It's like, this is when a person is just not able to see what is going on right in front of them, or they're misinterpreting what is going on in front of them in some way. So a really common example is like when somebody overstays their welcome at your house. Like, you may be looking at your watch and dropping hints, you know, that it's time for you to leave now, but they're just not really getting the message, yeah? Or, you know, someone flirts with you. You know, you are not romantically interested in this person, but they just continuously flirt with you because they just can't see that you're not interested. And also it can be the other way around as well, like a person who can't get a date, and, you know, yet there'll be the perfect person will be stood right in front of them, but they just don't notice them. You know, that person could be flirting with them, but they don't notice that. You know, or you're on the phone to somebody, okay, and you've said like a few times now, you've said to them, I've really got to go now, like I've really got to go, I must go now, I've got to go, and this person just keeps you on the phone. It's like they're just not hearing what you're saying, they're not noticing that this person really wants to go. And to be honest with you, I don't know. Sometimes I don't know if it's because they really are not able to see that you've got to go, or they're just maybe deliberately just choosing to ignore you. But anyway, this is because that imbalanced brow center leads to people not really being able to pick up on very subtle nuances of mood. I mean, your third eye is where you develop your clairvoyance, right? So obviously this is about the ability to see things clearly. But if we're not able to, even in our everyday lives, be able to see things clearly, then what chance have we got in being able to develop, you know, clairvoyance, psychic seeing? So another thing is poor memory. Yeah, and this is because when a person has experienced some kind of trauma in their lives, it can cause them to shut down their sixth chakra. So they shut the brow center down, and this is really a protective mechanism. And so it leads to repressed memories. Yes, this person may find it difficult to remember things. You know, another thing is visualization. A person with an imbalanced brow can find it difficult to visualize. I think if you're running a lot of energy here and you've really opened up the psychic center quite a bit, if it's wide open, then I don't think you would have any trouble with things like memory and visualization. I think this is more of a case of there's just not enough energy there. There's, you know, the energy is deficient. So we don't want to have a deficient brow center, but we also don't want to have one that we're just overloading with energy as well, because that leads to distortion as well. So anyway, I think that's all I wanted to say for today. So I just want to thank you so much for listening. If you liked this video, then please give it a like and consider subscribing to my channel for more videos. Thank you so much for watching.